Your IQ tested at 160 before you turned 20. You can read a liar's shoulders before they finish their first sentence. You've closed 211 cases without ever drawing a weapon. None of that prepares you for the morning you walk into a crime scene and recognize the shoes on the body. They're hers. They're Eleanor's. You're not really an agent. You never went through the academy. Never qualified on a range that counted. Never wore the uniform they make recruits wear on orientation day. You're a consultant, a civilian the State Bureau brings in when a case has gone cold, or gone strange, or both. What you offer isn't training, it's attention. You notice the flinch a half second before someone finishes a lie. The tan line where a wedding ring used to be, worn by someone who swears they've been married 15 years. The way a man checks his watch 3 times in an interview when he's not actually late for anything. Your colleagues have never fully decided what to make of you. Some resent that you outrank them without ever earning a badge the way they did. Others quietly need you, and hate that they do, because you've closed cases in an afternoon that sat in a filing cabinet for a decade. You've also been suspended twice. Once for interviewing a suspect without a detective present. Once for walking into a house you weren't cleared to enter because you already knew what you'd find. You were right both times. That's never made it easier for anyone to trust you completely, least of all yourself. Elena Marsh is the only person at the Bureau who never treated you like a party trick. 8 years ago, when half the department wanted you gone within a month, she was the one who vouched for you, case after case, until nobody questioned it anymore. She became your supervisor first, then your partner in every way that actually mattered. And, if either of you had ever said it out loud, which neither of you ever did, something closer than that. You've spent 8 years reading everyone else in that building without even trying. Elena is the one person you've never let yourself read, not fully because some part of you didn't want to know what you'd find. You've noticed things anyway, that she always sits facing the exit, in every restaurant, every meeting room, every car, that she hasn't taken a real vacation in 6 years and cancels the ones she books, that she keeps a photo in her desk drawer she's never once mentioned and puts it away fast if anyone walks in. You could ask. You never have. You told yourself once that it was professionalism. You've since stopped pretending that's the whole reason. She's the one person you wanted to just be a person, not a case. You never got the chance to find out if that was possible. She was found in her own driveway at 6 a.m. by a neighbor walking his dog. A single wound, no forced entry, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses who heard anything at all. Her car was still running. Her coffee was still on the passenger seat, untouched, still warm when the first officer arrived. Nobody at the scene knows what to do with you. The people whose job it is to ask you questions can't, because for 8 years, you've been the one who's supposed to have the answers. You stand at the edge of the tape, looking at the space where she used to be, waiting for your mind to do the thing it always does. Pull apart a scene, find the detail that doesn't belong, hand you the answer before anyone else has finished asking the question. For the first time in your career, nothing comes. The machine that never stops running goes completely, terrifyingly quiet, and you're just a man standing in a driveway, staring at chalk on concrete. There's Derek Solis first, the agent Eleanor passed over for your position 2 years ago, promoted a civilian instead of him, and he has never once let anyone forget it. He's spent 2 years telling anyone who'd listen, on record and off, that putting a person with no badge and no training above trained officers was a disgrace to the Bureau. He requested a transfer twice. Both times, Elena denied it personally. There's her ex-husband, Adam Whitmore, a real estate developer with a temper the tabloids loved during the divorce. She was suing him over a division of assets so bitter it had been in front of 3 different judges, and he stood to lose 8 figures in the settlement she was 2 weeks from winning. Friends said he called her the night before, insisting on one more conversation about the numbers. There's a man named Dennis Kroll, released from prison 4 months ago after serving 6 years on a case you built from nothing. A case he swore, in open court, in front of his own family, that he would make you regret for the rest of your life. He moved back into town 3 weeks ago. Nobody flagged it. And then there's you. You were the last person to call her at 11:40 the night before she died for reasons you haven't fully explained to anyone, including yourself. Nobody says it to your face. You can read every room you walk into for a living. You don't need anyone to say it. You already know exactly what they're thinking. You've built a career on being able to walk into a room and take it apart in minutes. You've never once turned that ability on people you actually cared about, because some rooms you don't want to read that closely. Now you don't have a choice. Somewhere in the next 3 interviews is either the truth or the closest thing to it you're going to get. You've read liars in interrogation rooms for 8 years. You've never had to do it while grieving the person who put you in that room in the first place. You do the only thing you've ever known how to do. You start reading the room, one suspect at a time. Derek's alibi is airtight. Dinner with 3 colleagues, timestamps on his phone, a receipt down to the minute. It's almost rehearsed, too clean for a man who has never once turned in a report on time in his life. Organized isn't a word anyone at the Bureau has ever used about Derek Solis. Not until this week. Adam Whitmore's grief looks real at first. The shaking hands, the voice that cracks on her name. Then you notice the small things. That he's already had his lawyer loop in the estate attorney about the settlement, less than 48 hours after her death. Grief doesn't usually move that fast. Money does. Dennis Kroll is the one everyone in the building wants to be guilty. The ex-con with a public grudge is always the easiest story to believe. But you watch him for 40 minutes, and he never once looks at you. He watches the door, the whole time. That's not a man performing anger or hiding a confession behind bravado. That's a man who's actually afraid of something, and it isn't you. Then you find it, almost by accident, buried 3 screens deep in Elena's calendar. A 6 p.m. meeting the night before she died, logged under 2 initials that don't match any of the 3 men you've spent the day interviewing. They don't belong to a suspect on your list at all. They belong to someone inside the Bureau. Someone with access to her calendar, her house alarm code, and 8 years of quiet resentment they were careful enough to never let show. To anyone, including you. You sit with that detail longer than you've sat with anything in this case. Not because it's complicated, it isn't, not really. Because it means the machine that never stops running has been pointed in the wrong direction since 6 a.m. this morning. At 3 men who each had a motive built for a headline, while the actual answer was sitting 3 feet from your desk the entire time, saying good morning to you every day like nothing was different at all. It's Derek. Not because Eleanor passed him over for your position 2 years ago. That resentment was real, but it was never actually enough on its own, and some part of you always knew that. It's because 2 years ago, before any of that, Eleanor caught him quietly burying evidence to close a case faster than the work justified. She never reported it. She sat on it instead for 2 full years deciding, the way she decided everything, whether it was worth ending a man's entire career over one bad decision. Derek never knew she'd made up her mind, not until 3 days before she died, when he found out she'd finally scheduled the meeting that would report him. The alibi wasn't rehearsed because he's a meticulous man. It was rehearsed because he'd been planning this, quietly, methodically, for weeks. The same 2 years of resentment everyone already knew about, used as the perfect place to hide the real reason underneath it.